Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey Seattle, Shop the Beat is back. Shop the Beat supports the economic recovery of small businesses, local musicians, and neighborhoods throughout Seattle. This program matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours to help increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide competitive pay for musicians who were significantly impacted by the pandemic. The City of Seattle Office of Economic Development is currently accepting applications from musicians and small businesses who are interested in participating. Apply for Shop the Beat at seattle.gov/economic development. Applications end December 1st.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, PhilAm Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in. PhilAm Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe Dean. And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You probably have questions about COVID vaccines. Here are some answers about how they're being made.
How are COVID vaccines being produced faster?
Usually, vaccine testing and production are separate steps. But because of the pandemic, vaccines are being developed on parallel tracks. So both steps are happening just at the same time.
How are the vaccines being tested?
Right now, several different COVID vaccines are in testing. Each go through multiple clinical trials with up to thousands of volunteers.
How do vaccines get approved?
Not all COVID vaccine versions will make it to the final stages of testing and approval. Produced vaccines that do not pass clinical trials will be destroyed. But for those that do pass, a team of medical experts will examine test results and possible side effects. If the vaccine is effective and safe, it gets approved and gets to you. Go to covidvaccinewa.org to learn more. A message from the state of Washington.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan Cotto, Rainier Avenue Radio, touching bases with you live from the Columbia City Theater with Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. And Mick, it is fall weather now. No more extended summer. We are back to what we get in Seattle. Nice 56 degrees and rain today.
Yeah, 9 months of fun waiting for us, right in time for fall tournaments.
This is WIAA, the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, Prime Time with the executive director, Mick Hoffman, where we discuss issues that are going on in athletics and activities in Washington State. And no better person right here than to give us those answers. Certainly last week we had BJ Kuntz, who's the assistant executive director, and what a fun that was to hear from one of your staff members.
Yeah, BJ is phenomenal, and she is one that tries to find ways to make things better continually, and she's really focused coming out of schools on that education process and what we can do to help coaches and athletic directors in their role. So, yeah, she's gold mine for us.
Well, we are just touching the surface this year on the WIAA, and we're hearing from some of the great leaders there, and we really appreciate Mick coming and meeting with us on Tuesdays. And I've heard so much positive feedback on the show. So if you have any questions, why don't you get a hold of us here at Rainier Avenue Radio, and we certainly will ask Mick those. Just a couple of highlights before we get started today. Tonight at 6 o'clock, we have a district court debate. The two candidates who will be here, and unfortunately, I can't see the screen that far. Maybe I'll go take a look up there and tell you who's going to be in the debate. But we will have a district court debate tonight between Damon Shadid and Najat Rose Atkins, and both of them are two attorneys who have been very, very active in the Seattle community. Should be a really good opportunity to hear some of the issues that are important to them as they spent all summer. I know I've seen yard signs for both of them all over Southeast and Central Seattle, and obviously two candidates who are really, really close to the community. So they want to be on the court to look at the different issues that come across a judge's desk, and they're going to explain to you how that's going to impact us here in Southeast Seattle. Tomorrow, actually Thursday night, the 27th, we have the debate between Chapalo Street and Amijah Smith, the two candidates who are running to represent and be your voice here in the 37th district down in Southeast Seattle. Of course, Rainier Avenue Radio is heard all over the world, but down in Southeast Seattle here, these two candidates want to be your voice, and anyone who wants to go to Olympia, Mick, I tell you, you are a special person. These are two special people who have tremendous backgrounds in the community and certainly have a distinct way of representing the 37th district. This is a chance for you to find out more about them, hear them speak on the issues, because they want to represent you down in Olympia. On Saturday night, we're back to covering sports. We have high school football. I should say Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, the Garfield Bulldogs will be taking on a play-in game winner as we're starting the Metro League playoffs. So it is starting to turn in the fall. The weather's starting to get a little crisper. It's getting a little moisture in the air, and high school football starts to go into the playoff season. And the Garfield Bulldogs, they took a tough one the other night against the O'Day Irish, but still an outstanding football team, excited and poised, and they will be ready for a big playoff battle. So looking forward to seeing the Bulldogs and whoever their opponent is be ready to go at Memorial Stadium at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Mick, wrote out a couple of things here that we're going to talk about today, and a couple of my good buddies who've been athletic directors talk about at the district level and also at the school level, the three areas they focus on: buses, budgets, and basketball. But I want to just chat with you a little bit about the role of the modern athletic director in a public and or private school, and the ability for them to start to put together schedules, start to put together the facets of a athletic program. It is different than our friends Jen Cohen down at the University of Washington, who has a multi-million-dollar budget. They'd say multi-gazillion-dollar budget. They have marketing and advertising and negotiation of shoe contracts. At the high school level, these are folks who just love athletics and want to give an opportunity for the kids to play. Tell us about the job of athletic director and what they do to support our kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough job in the schools. You're really, most cases, the only one who knows the job or does the job. You're also potentially the most recognizable person in your building, more so even than a principal or anything else. You know, you're dealing with the most emotional topic in your building, the most community supported or known topic. And so there's a lot of facets to it. So, you know, you talk about the big time D1 roles. They have a lot more money. They also have some similar responsibilities, just not as much help. So the role of an athletic director is typically what we see is they're the people who fully understand the benefits of education-based athletics and activities. They understand how important it is. They understand the stories of so many students that the only reason they get out of bed and they make it to school is they want to be at practice so they can play in that game on Friday or Tuesday or Thursday. So they play a critical role. At the same time, they have to have adults coaching those teams. So they're recruiting, they're training, they're trying to retrain, they're trying to motivate. At the same time, they're making sure that they've got schedule right. So a bus shows up, that students get picked up, that coaches are not crossing any lines with students, that students are eligible. If you read our handbook, which is a great read, by the way, WIAA.com, if you want to know the rules, it's exciting stuff. They're responsible for all the rules. And so they're getting training, they're giving training. I mean, it's a complicated job. And then, on top of it, you need to be at the facility supervising your crowds. And what we're seeing in the last few years is supervising crowds in itself is an incredibly difficult job. So it's truly a labor of love. The ones that do it well are absolute gold. For many, they get in and it's a burnout job if they don't have the support of their school and community. So without them, you don't have programs. I mean, you need students to play, coaches to coach, but you need athletic directors to pull all of that together. And there's really no one else in that building that can do that.
You have Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, who wrote the Federalist Papers, which is a little bit of a dry read, but it's good to hear that. And it's actually true. The WIAA Rules Handbook is not a bad read for those. And how can one get a copy of the WIAA Handbook? Is that online or
website WIAA.com? Go to the resource tab and hit handbook, and the rules are there. A lot of people assume they know the rules. They typically don't. So eligibility, which is a big one, all those rules are on there. They're under resources. There's an eligibility tab that you can get all the paperwork and how to appeal eligibility. So we want to make sure the information is available to the people who want it. So it's there.
The in-school building athletic director, and so let's break down the tasks. The first task, I would assume, is to find people to coach the sports. And then also to support those people. What role can an athletic director play to support the people that they have put in place to coach these sports?
Yeah, I think the first step is making, the most important thing we ever do is who we hire. And then the second step is how we take care of them. So before they even hire, they need to make sure that interested people, there's a lot of people who have their own view of what coaching or athletics should be. They need to make sure that they have a clear vision of what they want their athletic program to be about, whether it's done through core covenants, whether it's done through conversation, what have you. But an athletic director needs to have a clear vision of what his or her program is about. And then you can go out and find the right people that can make that vision come to life. And I think that's what you're looking for in a coach. The X's and O's, we can all learn X's and O's. That's the easy part. You can learn that over time. How you treat students and what you want students to walk away from at the end of the day, that's the tricky part.
It seems to me that we hear stories sometimes, Mick, where the athletic director after a season or even during a season where the season may not be going the way it was as planned and the team isn't undefeated. And matter of fact, in the case of me at my coaching stops, we haven't won a game. And it seems sometimes that the parents have a way of starting to get upset and interfere with the whole process. So they go to the athletic director and say, we're upset with the coaching staff and certain things happen. What is the role of the athletic director in supporting the coach when sometimes the season isn't going the way that we want it and the parents are upset about that?
Yeah, no, great question. I would say that in my experience as an athletic director and as a coach, some of the best coaching was done in the least amount of wins. You don't get to pick your students, right? I mean, we hear all the recruiting and all that. It doesn't happen nearly as much as most people think. You get who you get and you make the best of it. And you need to what ADs need to be able to do is help coaches keep that in perspective and protect them from people who are unrealistic. I mean, I'll ask people right now, who won the 4A girls state basketball championship last year? And who won the 4A boys state basketball championship last year? We're talking our largest one. I just asked this question in front of 600 coaches and players down in Southwest Washington at a sportsmanship summit. One person knew. A boys basketball coach knew Curtis, and a girls basketball coach knew Woodinville. Other than that, silence. And we had basketball players in the crowd, seniors. And so if winning is really that important, why wouldn't everybody in the state know who won those state championships? Because it was important to Woodinville and Curtis. I watched them win those games. I mean, they celebrated, they continue to celebrate. They're going to have those stories forever. But in the scheme of things, right, winning really isn't that important. I mean, we've all been part of teams where you were successful, wins and losses. It was a miserable experience. And so I think ADs need to have the courage and, more importantly, the support of the administration and the people above them to be able to recognize, is the coach providing what that program and community needs? And even if the wins aren't there yet, good programs, good coaches will win over time. And you make the best of the talent you have, you grow them, but education base is more than just wins and losses. Why do all these club sports want to be recognized and play in WIAA events? The talent level is better a lot of times in club sports because they take the best kids from the city, not the best kids from the neighborhood, right? The reason they want to do it is because people value it to a higher degree. And the reason they value it is it's more about winning and losing. Now, do we want to win? Heck yeah, we want to win. Do we want to compete? You bet. But if a coach is getting the most out of his or her kids, why wouldn't we honor and respect that and tell the parents who don't know better, that are just passing through for 2 or 3 years, you're wrong, right? That's not what we're about. This is what we're about, and move forward. It takes courage, but it also takes support of the entire system to do that for athletic directors. And if you're an athletic director and you're not in that situation, we have 93 new athletic directors this year. We have 419 high schools. There's plenty of open jobs where you can get to a good place and bring in good coaches, protect them, and you'll grow and make great programs that'll win a lot of championships.
I had the opportunity to work with 3 outstanding athletic directors, Jerry Bamberg, Hoover Hopkins, Carl McAvoy at Franklin High School. And I just remember the tremendous stress they were under, especially Hoover, who was coaching at the time. And just from your perspective in regards to the position, as you've just described it, with the magnitude of things that an athletic director has become responsible for, has the job become too big for one person?
Absolutely. Depending on what their other duties are. I mean, in some schools, they might get 1 or 2 periods off. Some schools, they might get a stipend for their time after school. Some, they might be assistant principals. They're doing evaluations of teachers. Some, it might be a full-time job. So yeah, absolutely. And you think about, one of the places, and I was guilty of this as a school person, we didn't capitalize on the opportunities athletic brings to bring our communities in and educate them on the entire school system. And so I think that if we resourced it, athletics on average across the country is less than 2% of a school district's budget. Yet you're impacting more people than anything else. So yes, I think we need to resource it properly. We need to make sure that we take advantage of it when it comes time to pass bonds and levies. A lot of times sports gets used as a leverage point, but we should be celebrating the benefits of it throughout the year. And, like I said, I wasn't good at doing that. I know it's hard when you're in the day-to-day grind as an athletic director, but if we can find a way to lift that up, and as an association, that's what we're trying to find, ways that we can provide those kind of materials for schools to simplify it, then the ADs have the tools to be able to communicate what they do.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Tonight, 6 o'clock, Shadid Nayat. Please vote. I turned my ballot in today. Spoke to a friend yesterday, posted this on Facebook. She likes to take her kids, and on Tuesday of the election, they go drop the ballot off at the box, and they get to see people in line turning in the ballot. Folks, if I tried to do that, I'd lose the ballot. I got the stamp on it. I'm probably one of the first ballots that was turned in that they will get in Renton today. Vote on November 8th. The ballots are in the mail. Get that ballot out there. And tonight, 2 candidates, Shadid and Rose Nayat, they are running for the district court seat here in the city of Seattle. 2 folks who are very, very tied to the community. And obviously those judicial races, what we call in politics, down ballot races, are oh so important. So you're going to be able to get some really good information tonight, and hopefully it will encourage you to pick a candidate, but most importantly, it'll get you voting on November the 8th. Mick, I watched the University of Washington play the other night, they in their game, and they had these against Cal. They had these really cool looking helmets, golden shiny helmets. So it didn't even, and big gold numbers on the jerseys, didn't even look like the University of Washington. So new, so fresh, so exciting, so exhilarating. Looked like a glass of champagne out there that the kids were wearing. And the whole nexus around all of this in regards to the uniforms and the look. And some schools and some communities have the money to go ahead and spend additional resources on their uniforms. I remember when I was at Highline High School and we were playing, I was scouting Kennedy, and I had Mike Merrill in the stands, the great Mike Merrill. And I said, I just had my kids in Penn State uniforms. And he said, Coach, they have a number on the front and they have a number on the back. Those are great uniforms. It was just really funny how he put that, because in our thinking, that was what we wanted. We wanted a base uniform that the kids could be proud of and represent their school with the colors. But we saw the disparity. And I'm just wondering, as an athletic director, how can you go about trying to lessen the disparity in creating a athletic program that represents beyond the flash and fancy of the uniform?
Yeah, again, it goes back to identifying what your program is about, and then what are wins, and identifying community resources that you have available to you. And a lot of communities have individuals in there that are true treasures of their community, and bringing individuals in and having those interactions, taking your students for experiences, right? I mean, a uniform's cool. I mean, all right, if kids have the right shoes, the right uniforms, it's a big deal. Makes them feel good. It's a reward for the hard work they put in. But at the same time, there's other ways that you can reward students that will make that longer impact. You have to address the immediate needs, the things students want now. So I think that's one way. The other piece is it goes back to your question about the role of athletic directors, trying to find the time, right, to be able to cultivate and develop those kind of programs and connections for the community. And that's really where communities can wrap around. And if we're doing a good job of promoting our students and letting them know what great kids we have, an 0-8 football team might be full of a bunch of great kids that are doing some amazing stuff in their community. Well, families can get that help, get that message out. Community members can embrace that and reward those students for going 0-8 in football is tough, and getting beat up every single day and still showing up. But those are things that are going to transition into marriage, raising kids, jobs, and careers. And so that benefits the community. So if the community can rally around that and help out those schools and get those kids some cool uniforms or cool shoes or a cool experience, it keeps them in the program. Eventually, you're going to get more students playing and you win the arms race, right? You have more bodies. And that's how you build programs. So, but an athletic director has to have time for that. And when you talk about bigger than one person, absolutely it's bigger than one person. That's where booster clubs and finding positive ways for parents to come in. I mean, parents can be your greatest ally or your greatest challenge. And if you can make it more than about the winning, you can find ways for parents to help, because they can't really help you win in the immediate time. They can help you win with your kids.
I'm going to ask you this, and you can answer it yes or no, and I think that would be respectable in your position. This whole proliferation of uniforms and Nike and Adidas and Under Armour and I'm going to high school football games, and they're starting to have the little logos on the corner, just like the college teams do. Are we starting to get a little carried away with this, or is this just where high school sports is kind of evolved to?
I can't give a yes or no answer. I would say it's evolving that way. And it kind of goes back to what you said, they see it on Saturdays, they see it on Sundays. Most of the uniforms, there's not that many uniform providers anymore. There's an arms race with them to get kids in their shoes and their apparel. They make really good gear. So whether it's Three Stripes or it's a Swoosh or what have you, or Under Armour, they're the people who they're emulating are wearing that. And so it's no different than us throwing on a Mariners hat or a Seahawks jersey on Sunday. Is, we want to be a part of it, and they find a way to be a part of it. So the key is, in school-based sports, how do we make sure that all students have that same opportunity in every school, right? And at least a base minimum. And if other communities rally, how do we make sure that the experiences, at least that we provide, every kid has a chance to compete? And that's what we try to do with our classification system, the balancing of that. But as far as their day-to-day experience, that's a tough one to answer.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the man who has to answer the tough questions as the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto of your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. right in the heart of the 37th district, which Thursday night, the 27th, we will have a debate. Two outstanding candidates, Chapalo Street, Amijah Smith, both people very, very connected to our community, both people very, very passionate about the issues that are impacting our community. They want to be your voice in Olympia. And let me tell you something, as a lobbyist here in the state of Washington, our state representatives have a very, very tough, grueling, and demanding job. This year, it's going to be a 90-day session. So they're going to be down there for 90 days away from their families and representing you. And let me tell you something. If you think politics is glamorous, they do not get a tremendous salary. It's almost like refereeing football. Right? I mean, they're down there and they are making major decisions. And it's really, really difficult to find good people who are committed to the community that want to do it. We have two contrasting candidates, both very passionate, a little bit different. And that's for you to kind of see and decide who you will vote for on November the 8th. And most importantly, please take your ballot to the drop box or to the mailbox and vote by November the 8th. And of course, if you're like me, you voted today. Get that thing out of the way. Going back to the conversation around athletic directors and buses, budgets, and basketball, let's move into the budgeting of the athletic department and the role that the athletic director has to sit down. And I remember seeing Hoover and Jerry with the spreadsheets. How do the athletic directors work to pull us out to make it an equitable situation and an enjoyable situation for all the kids in all the sports?
Yeah, it's very school district unique in that how they budget, whether they coaches are paid for out of the centralized budget or school budgets. But essentially, with Title IX, they get audited. And so they need to make sure gender-wise that it's done fairly. And matter of fact, we just worked with OSPI to help promote one of their trainings on Title IX. They had 90 athletic directors on there to continue to seek education. So there's some rules and laws around it. And then they just need to be intentional on making sure that they're paying attention to that they're treating genders and specific sports with the understanding, the equipment in some sports is far more, gymnastics and football is more expensive than basketball. But there's more games, maybe more travel. And so, you use historical numbers. And unfortunately, a lot of times in training for administration, at least my experience was, we didn't get a lot of training in budgets. You kind of had to learn it on the job. So you have to create some systems and be good at reading spreadsheets. So, so it really is based, what we're trying to do to help athletic directors is find revenue generating opportunities that we're bringing with streaming and some options like that. So we're trying to find ways where they can help with that, get some advertising on websites and what have you, to be able to generate some revenue to enhance their programs.
Really quickly, because we're down to our last about 30 seconds, tell us, what is the rules of Title IX trying to meter out? Is it trying to get as many participants, or is it trying to make sure that the money is spent at the same level for boys and girls?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. And so the bottom line is you should have proportional participation numbers to your population. And if you don't, then you either need to make sure that you're meeting all existing needs that you do through your every 3-year minimum survey, or that you have continue to add opportunities for the underrepresented sex, which in high school levels, typically female, middle school, sometimes it's male.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto of Rainier Avenue Radio.world, our community radio station, and your community radio station. We will be back in 3 minutes for the second half of the show.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
Has your small business experienced property damage? Apply for the Storefront Repair Fund to receive a $2,000 grant to help cover storefront repair costs. The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing nearly $2 million to help businesses recover from the economic impacts caused by damages to their storefronts. Grants will help cover costs such as broken windows, broken doors, broken locks, and etching on windows. Applications will remain open until all funding is awarded. Application assistance is available in multiple languages at 206-684-8090. For more information and to apply for the Storefront Repair Fund, go to seattle.gov/economic development.
Women are not an homogenous group.
We face discrimination differently depending on factors such as ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, and more.
Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to amplify women's voices.
They are the experts of their own lives, initiating conversations within their community about challenges they face, the solutions they're working on, and the opportunities they see.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 for Women's Voices on Air. We know our challenges. We are the experts of our lives.
We are master multitaskers, prioritizing our family, friends, and our faith above our own needs.
Our needs and voices are too often overlooked.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. for Women's Voices on Air.
We tell our stories in our own way.
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio.org. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Juan Cotto on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, with the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, better known as the WIAA. This is Mick Hoffman. And we meet here on Tuesday afternoons, and we discuss issues and topics in high school sports. And sometimes we laugh, sometimes we sigh, but it's always a very, very interesting time in athletics and activities as well. So we want to make that clear. The city of Seattle, and especially down here in the southeast and central Seattle area, has always had an affinity for music. We're sitting at the Columbia City Theater, where musicians and wannabe musicians like, I believe, Paul Allen played in this building. And one of the great events for music in our city is the Earshot Jazz Festival. And Friday night from 6:30 to 7:30, Rainier Avenue Radio will be broadcasting from the Earshot, the Jazz Festival. What a wonderful community event it is, and we're extremely excited to go ahead and continue this partnership with Earshot Jazz. Obviously, Tony Benton, and AKA Tony B, a person who's so strongly connected with the music community here in Seattle. So we're looking forward to Earshot Jazz in this particular performance, and then also other performances that will be coming up. But Friday night, 6:30 to 7:30, please, if you love jazz, turn on your computer and go ahead and stream a little jazz. It should be great. As we've told you before, politics is in the air. The weather starts to change. It gets a little crisp out there. Not only high school football, but politics as well. Tonight, the District 7 debate between Najat, and you've seen those yard signs all over Southeast Seattle, and Mr. Shadid. He also has had his yard signs up, and very familiar with both candidates. Two strong candidates in the community, and the judicial issues, we call those down ballot races, but the impact on a community is undescribable, and the judges make such decisions. It's almost like being the executive director of the WIAA. But in all due seriousness, these are two people who have strong community ties. They have great vision for the community, and they want to impact the community through legislation as it is transcribed by the judicial system. So please turn on the debate tonight at 6 o'clock and vote November the 8th. Mick, let's talk a little about, I had talked about budgets in basketball, and that's going to transition into the year-round sports. And I think all of us who coach sports outside of basketball, we kind of complain a little bit because some of our better athletes and kids who make commitments, they go on this year-round journey. We always used to joke that basketball is a sport that is 14 months out of the year. The idea of the year-round sports, and we know my son's playing select baseball, and I'm starting to see it in baseball. He's working out here in October on top of playing football. And then, when he's not sleeping, my wife and I have the computer in his face, and he's getting his assignments done. So we're making sure that he stays on top of it, that busy schedule. And of course, you have 24 hours a day, so he has the ability to keep up with it. And we're those types of parents that make sure that he is keeping up with it. But the impact of year-round sports and select teams and travel teams on top of the academics in this 9-month period, how do we view this, and how do we start to balance some of that out?
Yeah, it's definitely, the largest unregulated business. There we go.
So we're on one microphone today, so I want to make sure I turned it on.
Most people try to turn it off. The largest unregulated business is club sports, and so I think in the coming years we'll probably see some type of regulation. I don't know what it'll look like. I think club sports has a place, and no different than education-based sports. I say this all the time. We're not in competition. I think what parents need to do with their students is decide why they want them to play. If it's for a scholarship, that's a bad investment. Because reality, we've talked about it on the show, right? 98.7% of students do not even get a partial scholarship. If you want to play at the collegiate level, you can pay your way and get into a D2, D3, NAIA. Those opportunities are readily available for all caliber of athletes. So, and most students don't get a full scholarship anyway. So I think if you're going to play that much, you need to play for the pure love of the game and not be putting pressure on the students when they don't perform well, not coaching them in the car, let their coaches coach. And if you're spending all your disposable income for extra coaching, to travel to watch them play, then you can't take the angst with that and put the pressure on your student or on the coaches or, blame other people if this scholarship doesn't come about, because the reality is it's not going to. I didn't look up statistics. Normally I try to do my homework. I'm sorry. But, there's a vast majority of NFL players when you watch were dual athletes. Typically a lot of wrestlers. There's a lot of track athletes that are also NFL football players. And depending on the sport, you'll see as high as 70% of them played multiple sports. So the specialization is hurting their sports. You mentioned baseball, and a lot of little leagues have disappeared because by 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they're taking the best player off each team, making a travel team. Somebody's making a lot of money off of it. And those 9 to 15-year-olds are, trying to make the MLB roster. And, Seattle has a great example of Kelnick. He was a can't miss project, and even he got sent down multiple times, and he's one of the, 0.1 percenters. So the year-round sport thing is dangerous if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it for the right reason, it can be a great experience. Kids aren't going to be in trouble. They're around hopefully healthy adults who are teaching them life lessons. They're with peers and people who love doing what they're doing. So I think club sports has an amazing opportunity to enhance a young person's childhood, but if it's done for the wrong reasons, it can be devastating.
As sports fans, we have ESPN, we have Fox Sports, we have a 24-hour, 7 days a week sports schedule. We have talk radio, and I wanted to touch on something that you said that was so important. Is this proliferation of sports, this over sports in our culture, is it leading people to believe that their kid who went 3 for 3 in a little league game is on the path to being a Division I athlete? I personally single-handedly ruined about 4 or 5 number 1 draft picks at Highline High School. And unfortunately, they were number 1 athletes in the number 1 picks in the NFL draft. Unfortunately, their grades were really low, and they probably weren't going to get into college. But nevertheless, and I think that if they spoke to you, I worked on the grade part very, very, sometimes very, very, very hard. We worked on the grade part together. But this whole idea that I'm going to get a college scholarship. And I was a pretty decent athlete, and I got an NAIA scholarship and played at Western Oregon. Had a great time with it. Extremely competitive. Got scouted, and we played. And it was as good a baseball as I could play, and had a fantastic experience. But I just wonder: are parents believing that this? And is this coming from what we're seeing on television? Is this a desire to see our kids participating with what these guys are doing that is driving this whole idea that I hear it all the time, my kid's going to play in college?
Yeah, I mean, if your kid wants to play in college, make sure they have good grades, because with good grades they can get into Whitworth and Whitman, and you can pay the tuition and they'll play at that level if they have any athletic ability. I mean, that's the way to do it if you really want them to play at college. But yeah, I think, you hear the Bryce Young deal. You hear about Haley Van Lith, her deal, and everybody thinks they can do it. Well, they're truly unicorns. I mean, they're exceptional athletes who have put in incredible time. A young man who's at Central right now, I heard him speak at a 2B League Summit that him and I spoke at. And he talked about he got up every morning and was in the gym before 6 a.m. shooting and ball handling. He'd go to school afterwards. Whether he had practice or out of season, he was in the gym till 9 o'clock that night. Then he'd go home and do his homework, right? He's a good player at Central Washington University. He's not playing at UW. He's not playing at Oregon State. He's 6'6". He's a stud. He's a freak athlete. And even with that, so I asked all the kids in the audience, there's 90 of them. How many of you get up 5 days a week, not even 7 days, just 5 days a week and work out before and after school on your sport? No one raised their hand. That's why. Right? He did it with these God-given gifts, and he was able to play at Central, right, and be very good. Most people don't put in the work. They don't understand what it takes. The other thing they don't understand, a young man who played for me, and this is why when people start specializing, it just really, there's so many it's so wrong for the players. One, they quit. I mean, if you look at when kids quit playing in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, it's because they've played more games by 7th grade than you and I played in our entire careers, right? With the other piece is that we talk about parents is they, their kids, the first one to get hair on his chin in 7th grade, right? So he dominates in football and basketball, but he doesn't grow another inch, right? And so now he's a sophomore, and he's gone from the center or the dominating running back to the wide receiver who's not very fast. Like, there's things that as veterans who've gone through the system, you see the development of young people on top of the work ethic. So that's one thing. But this kid I had, he was a freshman, and I didn't recruit. They all moved in. But I had 6 students move into Fort Vancouver High School to play basketball there. And they played their freshman year on the freshman team, and then they were out playing baseball, and he's in the parking lot. He's going to quit. And I'm like, Jake, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be at practice? I'm leaving. He's like, yeah, I'm quitting baseball. It's boring. I'm like, no. What are you going to do? He goes, I just want to play summer league basketball. I want to get in the gym now. So as a basketball coach, selfishly, this kid was going to be a pretty good high school basketball player. He wasn't going to be an NBA. He definitely wasn't going to be NBA, maybe small school college. Like, Jake, we don't quit. Like, you get your butt to practice. No, I'm not going to do it. I said, all right, fine. You quit. You don't finish the season. You don't play summer basketball with us. You can't do that. Yeah, I can. Fast forward a year, at the end of his sophomore year, his coach, who happened to play for the MLB for a short bit, goes, he has a chance to be a really good catcher. If he spends some time this summer, this is what we need to do. Now, selfishly, he's supposed to be my point guard the next year. We're going to summer basketball, and we're losing our point guard. He's going to replace him. As the coach, that's not a place that you really want to be. But I need to do the right thing for the kid. So it's like, okay, let's sit down. If he can come to camp with us on this week, that'll be good, right? And he played baseball. He ends up getting a partial scholarship and with grades and need of almost a full ride to University of San Francisco, right? If family has issues, job issues that year, and he wants to quit going to college because every single day he's up at 5 a.m. running, not during baseball season, in the fall, in the winter. and it's more work than he wants to do. He sticks it out. He ends up blowing out his rotator cuff, ends up staying in school. They honor his scholarship and his financial package. He graduates. Now this kid just built like a $3 million house or something. God, I don't even know how much he paid for his house. I'm not going to ask him, Jake. I'm not asking, and I don't want to know. And it was because when he's at University of San Francisco, he went to work for a financial institute. He got connected as a financial advisor for professional athletes. He's smart. The wherewithal, he gutted it out through those baseball practices he didn't want to do, and now he is going to take care of his family. They started a scholarship for single parent students when they were in college. I mean, these are the types of kids they had. And you know what? We started off 7-0 his senior year. Our 6'7" kid blew out his knee. We made the playoffs, and out the door we went. And we don't care about that because these kids are all successful. I played a very small part in that. My part was not being selfish and getting him to quit baseball so he could be a better junior high school basketball player, which wouldn't have got him to the University of San Francisco, which wouldn't have got his work ethic to take place. He did all the hard work. All I had to do was stay out of his way. And I think that's what we forget when we start asking kids to specialize, because we're so wrapped up in our dreams or what we want, and we're not looking at what's best for that student. Those students need to be kids, and they need to have time to enjoy and do other things.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto, a personality here on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We've talked a little bit about jazz. We've talked a little bit about politics. Saturday afternoon, we're going to see high school football. The Garfield Bulldogs will be taking on a play-in game winner. I believe the games are going on this week. I think there might even be one this evening down at Memorial Stadium, and then those two teams will play, and I think they play a third game to determine who Garfield will play. And as the weather gets a little crisper and we start moving towards November 1st and October 31st and Halloween, high school football starts moving to the playoffs, and it's really exciting. And as Mick alluded to, the kids put so much time into it, and it's such an exciting part of their life. And Garfield has had a tremendous season, and we're looking forward to seeing if they can go ahead and continue. They took a tough game the other night against the O'Day Irish, but we know the Garfield Bulldogs have a resilient program, and looking forward to seeing how they respond in this winter move forward playoff game that they're going to be involved in on Saturday, 2:00. And you can see that right here on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Mick, I hear you're passionate about this, and I feel the exact same way as a former coach. You can never win enough to satisfy yourself. You can never, your ego will never get enough out of victory. And once I understood that, you want to prepare the kids for the future. That's your most important role as a coach. But sometimes parents have other ideas, and I'm wondering, as an institution, the WIAA, as the districts and the district athletic directors, school athletic directors, and coaches, how can we buy in a better vision for the parents? That this isn't about having your son turn into a Division I all-star. This is about going on that path of development and being a better person and take their rightful place in the community.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is help arm athletic directors with data, right? Because we're going to deal with emotion and passion, and there's some students who are going to make it, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't want to crush those dreams. We want them to dream big, like dream bigger than you can expect, but have a plan B and have a fallback plan, and make sure at a minimum that it's not an all or nothing. And so when we get the opportunity to go out and speak, BJ was down at a coach's school in Puyallup. Cindy was up at Oak Harbor at Women in Sports Day. I get the chance to go out and speak at league and sportsmanship summits. And we're trying to arm people with the information and data, similar to what we're talking about here. Here's the reality of this. This is what we do. I mean, we deal with it all the time. The parents who blamed you, they're not doing it because they hate you. They're doing it because they love their student. So how can we help them encourage their student, dream big, go for it, but at the same time have a fallback plan so that we're not teaching them to make excuses when they fail, because that's going to carry over when they get married, when they're parents, when they go to work. Like, hey, we want to go for it. I want to be the best parent I can. Yes, my kids, I might get a C or C plus, right? From because I was gone a lot doing my job. I think I'm a lot better grandparent or parent now. So we can learn and evolve from that. But we can't make excuses, or we're just going to keep sliding backwards. And we have to invest the time. And you think about how much time as a coach did you invest in those young people? And as a coach, the only advice we can give is stay true to what you believe in. When the people from the outside who don't know are coming at you, just deal with it. But you're going to know what those kids think. And that's what really is the payoff. At the end of the season, they know you invested in them. You gave them every opportunity to not only win games, but to be better as a person and grow their skill set, to be successful down the road. I mean, that's as a coach what you got to do. The rest of the stuff is noise, and it gets loud at times. It gets painful at times. But you got to, if you can be true to your heart and what you're doing, those parents who think you ruined them, they just didn't get what they were telling people they were going to get, right? The rest of the world caught up with them. That happens.
No question about that. And I'm sure, like you, most of my parent experiences were fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are people who understand and really support you in helping raise their child. And it's such a unique relationship, and still a very unique relationship with kids I've coached over a decade ago with their parents today. So I want to point that out. Going back to the conversation about specialization, I've heard soccer coaches say that, something, if the kid really, really wants to be a stalwart in soccer, the high school teams aren't the ones they need to play for. They need to go ahead and stay playing for their select teams. And I'm not sure how it is I know in baseball, for example, the select programs in high school, Clemente's select program doesn't compete during the high school year. So go play for your high school and be with your buddies and play competitively that way. But I know there's certain sports where the kids can compete, and I know that there are also coaches who whisper in their ears. What can the WIAA do to combat the whispering in the ears that if you want to do this way, you need to stay on your select team, when going out and playing with your friends and being a part of the school team in soccer and in some of these sports is such an important and memorable experience that they'll never get back if they don't participate.
Yeah. Well, I'd say one way that we can combat it is we always tell parents, hey, if somebody's telling you your student has a chance to be a Division I player or a professional athlete, then why are they making you pay to play in their program? Or give me a guarantee, put it in writing, right? I mean, they're going to tell you what you want to hear because they need that monthly income, right? And I mean, I get paid for working in high school sports. So I don't have a problem with people making the money, but when you're misleading, I think there's a big difference. So get a written guarantee or let them play for free, right? Hey, Paulo, hey, you guess what? You can come play on my AAU team for free because when you're in the NBA making those big checks, right? I know you're going to kick it back and help the kids on my team. Great. But otherwise it's misleading. And so I think that's, part of it. I think the other piece is there's good competition in the WIA. I mean, Garfield goes and Beach, they go play in some big time tournaments. We allow for that. As far as the whispering in the ears, I mean, there's rules around that. If your son comes and plays on my AAU team or my 7-on-7 team, and I'm coach because I can coach because he's not on my team, but now all of a sudden, so say summer baseball, he's on my travel team, and now he transfers into my school. There's an issue with that, right? We have a rule specific to that. If a school thinks somebody else is recruited, they have the ability to superintendent, principal to principal to say, hey, we think your school violated a rule. So you got to be able to put it on the line. So we're not going to deal with rumors, but we're going to deal with facts. And if it's that big a deal, people are going to step up and call each other out on it. And then the school has a chance to investigate and report back. And then if the school says, we don't think you're being legit, then we can be asked to come in and do an investigation at that point. So we're really a member-driven, accountable to each other system. But there are rules in place to address all of that to make sure, because our goal is to keep we don't want it to be an arms race. It needs to be a competitive equity to give everybody a chance.
Speaking of rules and people who arbits on the rules. The 7th District Judicial Council District, the 7th District Judicial Council District election is going on, and that is with Nayat, and I know you've seen those signs, Nayat Atkins Rose or Nayat Rose Atkins and Darren Shadid. They are running against each other. They are on the ballot. I saw their names on the ballot today, as a matter of fact, as I went ahead and voted this morning and got my information on there, took my blue pen and circled in people's names on the ballot that are going to be representing us. These are two people who are incredibly dynamic. They are just outstanding attorneys in their own right, and they want to be on the court. And the legal system certainly is something that we've talked about here on Rainier Avenue Radio. And tonight at 6 o'clock, they will be discussing those issues and how they will impact those issues as judges if they are elected. So if you're looking for some information on some of the down ballot races, this is an important one, and this is going to be a hotly contested race. And I hope you'll tune in so you can learn about the issues that they're going to be representing and the issues that judges have to deal with, which is another job that is really extremely fraught with a lot of different rules and regulations and different things that they have to do to run their own campaigns. So hope you'll tune in to listen to these two candidates who want to represent us in the municipal court. It's interesting, Mick, as we're ending this conversation and ending this particular forum, just in regards to athletics and what it is evolving to, and certainly there was a time where the stands were packed in the 50s, and this was the only game in town, and people felt that community support for it. It's still fun, it's still exciting, and you still see the connection that it has with communities. One of the things I get so excited about when I call games for Rainier Avenue Radio or attend games with my son now in high school is just seeing the old timers, including me, who come back to support the kids who are playing and to redevelop those relationships. It's still so important. And how do we package that? How do we share that with folks that this is such a unique community endeavor, and what can we do to protect it?
Yeah, so great question. One is we need to do a better job marketing what our events. As a matter of fact, we were talking about that today. University of Washington, Central Washington are going to help with that a little bit. I think the other piece is we need to make them events. So when people come to them, they're events. So they're community events. So you get to see your friends and the people, the guy who sits in the same spot every time, and the lady who's been coming to every basketball game, and she's there, and she's known players for the last 20 years. So we need to find a way to honor and recognize them for their loyalty and their commitment to it, and cultivate that in communities. So yeah, we need to do a better job of marketing our product and making it fun, and also making it an event, and at the same time try to find a way to compete. So with the streaming and some of the things we're doing on social media, like what you're doing with football, that's keeping people connected to it that maybe don't go to the stadium on a Friday night for a variety of reasons, right? Either access or just the weather or what have you, but they can stay connected. And then if they get out to one or two games rather than no games, we don't lose them as a fan forever. So I think that's a big piece of it. And then just each school, how they show value to their community that's attending.
Mick, as usual, thank you so much for being here with us. Mick Hoffman, the Executive Director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I'm Juan Cotto, Rainier Avenue Radio Station, our community radio station, your community radio station. Tonight, 6 o'clock, we have judges. Please tune in to learn more about those issues. We have a variety of different things that we discussed today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to touching bases with you in the future. For Mick Hoffman, I'm Juan Cotto. Rainier Avenue Radio. Thank you.